Hey, Eilish. You there? Are you there yet?
Hello, ladies.
Hello.
I'm going to change my name. Oh, so annoying that I keep having to do this every time. Every time. Hi, Larry. Welcome. Our speaker has arrived.
That's nice. Hi, Larry.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can.
Good.
We didn't have to say you're on mute, the most used phrase in the English language. Is still on mute.
This is not my first Zoom call. So.
It's not our first rodeo either. It's been cool. So we usually everyone kind of joins a few minutes early and just kind of chit chats. And then I'm going to be conducting a meeting today because both the president and the president-elect are out of pocket.
Well, lucky you.
Yeah, and I'm a past. We're supposed to only have past presidents or people who have been through the president's training. So I'm a past president from many years ago. And I met my friends. I have my two great nephews here from North Georgia. They're 14 and 10.
How was that?
Yeah.
Was it fun?
Yeah, we've been having, it's party central, and so I'm up at my friend's just up the street, and she has a nice pool and a surfboard, and the boys are running from the edge of the pool and jumping onto the surfboard and coaching across the pool. Going, oh, please, dear God, don't crack your skull. They're 10 and 14, and they are absolutely indestructible. I took them for surfing lessons yesterday, and the first hour was great. They were doing fantastic. And they came out, got some water, went back in. And I think the second ride, my older nephew jumped down in shallow water and bent his big toe under. And so he had to quit surfing. And the younger one stayed out for another 30 minutes or so. And then we went home and iced his toe and stuff. But he's out there now jumping on the surfboard. And
he's fine.
Yeah, so we don't have any scheduled today. So we went to SeaWorld on Sunday, and that was a raucous good, ghastly. So they're out playing by the pool, and I've had to hunker down in my friend's guest bedroom so that because they're going to get out of the pool in a little bit and come in and play on my friend's Wii, and then they're bowling and playing golf and whatever, and they're shouting.
You look nice and suntanned.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I try to stay out of the sun, but it's just ages of leathered skin at this point.
When you walk around in SeaWorld, you'll get a 10.
Oh yeah. No, I did I have a hat? No, I didn't take a hat with me. I didn't take, but I did have lots of sunscreen on. Larry, you're in Texas.
I live outside of a small town called Wimberley, which is about halfway between Austin and San Antonio,
Okay. Okay.
very central Texas.
Yeah.
And I live out in the middle of nowhere, so I have very, very poor internet where I live. So I actually, when I do one of these Zoom presentations, I actually have to go to town where I can get broadband.
So do you just borrow someone's office, or do you have your own office there that you go to?
No, actually, I use I'm a member of the local VFW, so I use their facilities for this.
Okay.
Figured I might as well. I paid for it.
Yeah. Take advantage of it. Yeah. So that's good. Yeah, I can see you're in kind of an office setting. So I see a big filing cabinet behind you and stuff. So
Yeah, yeah. This is one of our conference rooms. So
okay. Mm. And were you always in Texas, or did you work for NASA? What did you do?
past 30 years, I've been in Texas, from northern Indiana, from snow country.
Mm.
And I retired in about 7 years ago from a long career in computer science.
Oh, that's right. It was computer science. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Engineering type stuff you were doing, or because you're writing sci-fi, I figured it was more engineering.
You mean what kind of stuff that I do in the career?
Yeah, yeah, I know. Career. I have a software company. I'm just curious.
I wrote software. I worked for a software house in Houston, Texas, and I was on the mainframe side of the house, and we wrote mainframe system utilities for database management systems.
Oh, okay, okay. So you were down in the weeds a lot then. Yeah.
Way down in the weeds, yes.
Yeah. We're a software house. We work in SQL Server, Microsoft suite of products. So we do database, but it's at the user and developer level. So
yeah. We wrote and maintained backup and recovery and those kinds of complicated pointer checker software and all of that. And it scares people when I tell them everything we wrote was in assembly language, but but that's the way it was. Yeah.
No.
And I started writing science fiction just about 10 years ago, actually about 11 years ago. Started writing it. I published my first book 10 years ago. And it became evident that when I was like 5 years into this, that it was getting easier and easier to self-publish your own work. And that's where I started developing these seminars and teaching other people how to self-publish their work.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds fun. Okay. Well, we usually have about 15. Let's see. There's Roger. Hi, Roger. So we'll wait a few minutes. We just started the meetings earlier, so we could just sort of chit chat ahead of time and kind of have everyone catch up and see how everybody's doing. And so we'll wait till a few minutes after 12 to actually get started. And then I assume Sam told you the kind of the agenda is we introduce visitors and guests, and not you because you have your own introduction, Larry. And then we do this any announcements, Sergeant at Arms, and so about 12:20, 12:25, we'll turn you loose and you can take it away and talk till
and we've
come home if you want.
And just so most of you know, you may already know, I've pared the presentation down considerably. Even though I left a lot of the material in it that I'm not going to cover in detail, anybody who has questions on any of it can either ask me at the end of the presentation or you can email me.
Right. Okay. And we'll let everyone have the email. I know it was in our and some of the information we got. So
yeah, it's actually in the presentation too. So
okay, good.
Okay.
And you have I need to make you a co-host then while I'm thinking about it, because you have slides you want to present.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to make you a co-host right now. So
okay.
Kathleen, Roy, Michael, nice to see you.
Hi guys.
Good morning.
Hello. I have my class working on an exercise, so I may have to dash back out if there's a panic, but I don't think so.
Panic amongst the rabbits.
Yeah, when they can't find a document, stuff like that.
Oh. Roy, what's exciting in Sharpsburg, Georgia?
Apart from the fact it's peeing down with rain, and we've got a thunderstorm, and
Oh, dear.
the dogs are wandering around wanting to know why they're not going out.
Oh, they're not frightened of the thunder though?
These days, Charles is a bit frightened of it, but Duke just sleeps through it.
Yeah.
Apart from
Michael,
that,
I'm in my grandson's bedroom in Poulsbo, Washington.
you look like you're part of the witness protection program.
Well, I'm hoping you could see the snow-capped mountains of the Olympics right out the window.
No,
Did they show up or not?
No,
think
it's a bit too
No.
light.
yeah,
too
it's too
light.
bright out there, I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
Take your word for it.
there we go. That's a bit better.
Yeah, yeah.
I can see him, I think.
Hey,
Yeah, now it's too bright again.
yeah. Well, Florida looks nothing like this, that's for sure.
No, I forgot you were going out there.
Yeah, it's 37 degrees
Ooh,
Fahrenheit. Joan, I don't know where to go.
Where are you again?
Poulsbo,
Seattle.
Washington, near Seattle.
Near Seattle, yeah. Yeah, that's not Florida. Denise, you look like you were having a good time with those, with the Florida crew the other day.
Yes, I did. It was
Oh.
really fun meeting Els and Jula. We went to a castle near to my house, and then we went to my house and I showed them my place. And
It's in my video.
we went to my parents' house, and there we had the white asparagus because they're in season right now.
Oh,
So,
Sparkle, I love it.
Very good.
yeah, so we
Good.
had the white
Those are good.
asparagus with the boiled potatoes and the cooked ham and an egg, and oh, I was in heaven. And yesterday evening, Els took us all out for dinner because her brothers were also going to be there. So that was really nice. And yeah, I really enjoyed myself. And we sort of made plans a little bit for when I'm coming over to Florida and everything. So yeah, it's probably going to be a road trip, and I'll be staying like 2 days at that per house and then moving onward. So yeah, we
Well,
have
I hope to be
start
able to
making
get down there
itinerary.
and see you while you're there.
I'm sorry?
I hope to be able to get down and see you while you're there. I just could
I
not
love
find
that.
an airfare that was even remotely reasonable for coming
let me
over
just
to
say-
Kukenhof.
Yeah, it's horrible because I'm actually I still have to book my tickets for Houston and Florida, and it's insane. I think right now it's the cheapest one is about 1,700 euros. So yeah, I'm sort of, because the weather is really bad right now here, so I'm waiting for the weather to get better, and then hopefully the ticket prices will go down again. So I'm just waiting for that.
Larry, Denise lives in the Netherlands. Kathleen is in, yes, Virginia,
Potomac?
Potomac, Maryland,
Maryland. Okay.
just outside
Kimberly-
Washington, DC.
Kimberly is in West Virginia. Roger is in the North Palm Beaches. Ed, Michael, and I live in Florida on the East Coast. Jen lives in Claremont, which is Central Florida. And Roy lives in
Ailish
Georgia.
is down near you too.
And Ailish is down there us too. Yep. So, and George, Roy's in Georgia, and then we have a few others. We have someone from Dublin, Lyon, France. Who else am I missing? Oh,
Switzerland.
Switzerland.
So we are all over. So
Georgia.
I said Georgia. Yep.
Where's Larry?
Georgia was mentioned.
Where's Larry?
Texas.
Yeah, I live in a small town in central Texas.
Can I put the video back on?
All right,
Jen,
well,
where are you? It's such an exotic background you have.
I'm in our RV. We're blowing the
figured.
cobwebs out today or this week. So we're at Bill Frederick, which is a city, Orlando City Park. And it's great. It's a nice big park, and it's right in Orlando. So this is our first time here, but really enjoying it. Not bad for like $20 a night.
where is that in Orlando?
That didn't work.
It is Hiawassee, just north of the turnpike. It's in the
Oh.
Metro West area.
Okay. Okay. I've never been over that way. Well, I'm not
It's
to that
really
part.
nice. It's
Yeah.
a really nice park. Yeah. Really like it.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, everyone, I'm gonna share my screen. Oh, hang on a minute. Hang on, let me get it started. And I have to tab over and find you guys and say, share this screen. No, presentation. Is that the one I want? Nope, hang on one second. I've only done this about 1,000,000 times. Oh, there we go, share. I'm just going to share that screen. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Someone sent me this quote the other day and I thought it was really nice. Our lives are a large collection of single days, one right after the other. The sun rises, sets, and rises again. And in the end, the lives we choose to live will be determined by how we choose to spend each day. So I think that's a nice sentiment, and it's about how we choose. We choose to be happy. We choose to show kindness. We choose to not react negatively to things that happen to us. All right, so we'll go ahead and start the meeting. Ding, ding, ding. We are official. Oops, I jumped ahead. Roger, our newest proposed member, not official yet, but soon. Would you lead us in the four-way test, please?
Sure. The four-way test are the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth?
Is the
Is it
truth?
the truth?
Second,
Is it
is it
fair
fair
Is
to
it
all
fair to all
concerned?
concerned?
Will it
Third,
build
will it
goodwill
build
and
goodwill and
friendship?
better friendships? And
Will
fourth,
it be
will be
beneficial
beneficial
to
to all concerned.
Well, that was pretty awful. Larry, we don't sing, so she'll rest, so relax, okay? So that's kind of one of those harmonizing things that would be kind of awful, I think. All right, any visitors we have today? Susan Delaney. I see you there. Hi, welcome. We want to
Hi.
introduce yourself?
I'm Susan Delaney. I am from Monroeville, Pennsylvania. I'm visiting down in West Palm. My son lives here, and I am from District 7305. And
Okay.
I just like to always see what's going on around the country in our Rotary.
Excellent. And how big is your club?
Not as big as it used to be, but we are attending at the hotel. So I'd say for lunch, we do Thursday lunch. I'd say we have usually about 20 to 25 attending. And yeah, that's about there. It used to be twice that, but.
Well, it has impacted all of us, but well, welcome. What do you guys, do you guys focus on any kind of particular fundraising or anything about?
Yes, we actually are. We've got a golf outing coming up. It's a fundraiser event. We'll be doing that to help raise funds we have a project, a district project that we're going to be working with one of the health centers in Nigeria. And we had other fundraisers. Well, we got a wine tasting fundraiser we're going to be working with to try to help raise some funds again for the same project. And the other fundraisers we usually had, we didn't, for some reason, we just didn't get to them. The bowling we would do ordinarily. And I'm in charge of I'm the chair for the scholarship committee. So we're down to picking our seniors from our local high school, and we're going to be giving out 5 scholarships, and we'll have them awarded at a special luncheon for the senior students.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like you're a very active club. So
yeah.
Sounds fun. All right. Well, welcome, and hope you can join us anytime. We're always here Tuesdays, and you don't have to be. I mean, we have, let's see who's on. I don't know if you heard the earlier part. Denise lives in the Netherlands. We have Gaël here from Lyon, France. Folks from all over the country and various places. So join anytime. We'd love to have you again.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. I think that's it for our visitors today. So let's move on. And just a few announcements. We're starting the Zoom meetings earlier so that you can get on at about whenever you want. The Zoom, you should be able to get on and start the meeting without me needing to be there. So you can get on and just start to chat and see what's going on with everybody and just kind of catch up. Also, the district conference is May 13th through the 15th at Hutchinson Island. That's always a really nice event, and it's always fun. So sorry, my phone is ringing. And oddly enough, that was a past Rotarian in my past club that was calling me. And Finola is in Dublin. She's joined us too. So welcome everyone. And are there any other announcements anyone has that I'm forgetting about? No? Okay, well, it's the part everyone loves before the speakers, the Sergeant at Arms. Denise, you ready to go?
Yes, I am.
All right, Matt.
So
Let me just explain to the visitors quickly. In our normal, when we used to meet in person in the old former club I was in, we would wave dollars and they would get collected. And now we don't do that, but it's just sort of an honor system. And this is how people can pay. Visitors are not expected to do any of this, but of course we'll take your money if you want to send it to us. So anyway, all right, Denise, go ahead.
all right, so welcome back. And today I am going to hand out a fine to everybody who is wearing something gray, myself included, because it's gray weather outside here in the Netherlands and I hate it. So that's why we're gonna get fined for that. Other than that, are there any birthdays and anniversaries?
No.
No. I see a hand up from Ailish, but I'm not sure if it's for something Sergeant related or not.
No, it's for something else. Sorry, I meant to take it down. Apologies.
Okay, no problem at all.
I'm gonna stop the share so we can all see each other for a few minutes and then
Yep, that's okay.
We'll do the introduction of Larry.
So no birthdays, anniversaries, because then we're moving on to sad dollars. So I just declared my sad story about being sad about the weather. Are there any other sad stories to go around? Okay, I see Roger and then Michael. Roger?
Yeah, I don't know how many of you knew Phil Woodall. He's a past president of the Rotary Club of the Northern Palm Beaches. He passed away over the weekend. He was T-boned about a week ago and spent about a week in trauma ICU. But he did pass away, and services are this Saturday. But that's Phil Woodall, if anybody happened to know him. That was a sad dollar. The happy dollar is that we got to spend some time on Sunday with our youngest grandchildren. I have bookend grandkids. I have 2 postgrads and 2 toddlers. And the 2 toddlers ran us ragged and put blue handprints all over everything they could find. So
who let them have blue ink, Roger?
I don't know. That Gma, I'll tell you.
Well, thank you for sharing. Michael.
Would you like sad and happy at the same time, or you want me to wait on the happy?
No, I'm flexible. We can do that. You can do both.
Okay. Well, my sad dollar is for a neighbor of mine and Ed Leffs, who left Florida Friday to drive home to Ohio. They got to Charlotte, the husband and wife, and the husband stepped off the curb and the wife didn't, and fell and broke her hip on Friday in Charlotte. But they did surgery on Saturday, gave her a partial replacement. And they left Charlotte yesterday by car to get back to Ohio. They made it to Beckley, West Virginia. They'll get back today. But I'm just amazed. First of all, the husband's amazed that his wife could get surgery the next day instead of Monday. And that they're in a car driving home for 2 days with a lady just recovering from hip surgery. So that's really sad. But I talked to her on the phone on the road yesterday. She rides in the back seat with a cat in a cage. That's why they're trying to get home. The happy dollar.
She's in a cage?
Cat's in a cage.
They both are.
The husband drives all the way. The wife sits in the back seat with a cat. The happy dollar is I'm here in Poulsbo, Washington, near Seattle with 16, 13, and 11-year-old grandsons. We got to have breakfast at the Sons of Norway hall on Sunday morning with lingonberry and pancakes. We're going to play pickleball this week. We're going bowling. Anybody know what bowling is? And we're just having a good old time. And we play cards every night. We play euchre, oh hell, 313, golf, just things you do when it's 37 degrees outside.
Do you have any lutefisk?
Pardon?
Did you have any lutefisk at
No lutefisk.
No lutefisk?
No, but I think we're having pheasant this week. Somebody gave my son-in-law a pheasant.
Well, I don't.
Right. Okay. But
I'm
Thank
not
you.
familiar with any of the games that you just named, Michael, any of the card games, but I'd love to try them.
You can learn them when you come to Florida.
Okay, we'll do that. All right. Any other, well, sad or happy dollars? We're going to do both. Susie.
I have 5 happy dollars. I have my 2 great nephews here who've been here since Friday night. I drove up and back to North Georgia to get them. And they're soon to be 15 and 10. And we've been just going flat out. Surfing lessons yesterday. My older nephew jumped off the surfboard into very shallow water and bent his toe backwards. So we think he would now have a broken toe, but he's out jumping in my friend's pool on her surfboard in the pool. I'm praying they don't crack their skulls open. And the 10-year-old and we just had a grand time. So it's just nonstop here. Then they go on Thursday and I'm gonna, collapse for a couple of days, I think. But having a great time. So really having fun.
Nice. Thank you. Ed, you also had your hand up.
Yes, trying to reconstruct my last several weeks. There's so much been going on, but I think it was the middle of March. My wife and I, we flew out to San Francisco where I got to visit our daughter to see where she lives. So we spent about a week in San Francisco, spent a little bit of time in wine country, ate some really good food, drank some good wine. Came back to Florida and my 21-year-old niece came down for her second visit. She visited us in December, liked it so much she couldn't wait to spend her spring break down here. So been nice to have some visitors and see some family again. And so that's my happy dollars.
Great. Thank you. It sounds amazing. All right. Any other happy people? Kathleen?
Yes, I think I should probably mention, I love doing my teaching, virtual training and so forth, but I made the mistake of doing back-to-back 13-day classes. And tomorrow's my last day. And then I have 4 solid weeks off. So I call that a big happy, to refresh and take care of the 1,000 other things I should have been doing.
I can imagine. That's something to look forward to. Eilish? You there? Because I saw her hand go down and then up again.
It's on mute.
Yeah.
sorry, I have an unhappy dollar because I missed all the happy dollars because somebody came to my door and I had to go answer the door. Sorry, I missed all the happy dollars.
That's okay. You can still add one if you want.
No, I can't think of anything at the moment.
All right. Well, I'm happy you're here. So.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so I think then I'm going to hand it back to Susie.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. And normally I would share the screen and we would see a picture of Larry, but Larry's already here with his headset on and ready to go. So we're going to have Kathleen McWilliams introduce Larry today.
Fantastic. I'm delighted, Larry. Even though I've never met you, I love science fiction. I took a crack at writing science fiction stories in high school. It was horrible. And I think I appreciate such a talent to come out at this point in your life. So let me tell you just a little bit about Larry. He had a 40+ year career in the software industry, which I think is a wonderful preparation. I spent a lot of time in that area too. And of course, like everyone, needed something else to challenge him in retirement. So piece of cake, started writing science fiction in 2011, has since published 12 books and several short stories. His books cover a wide range of topics. I just love these. Every one of them is so exciting. Our first exploration of space, Pushed to the Stars trilogy, Multi-Universe, Pathway to Anyverse, The Origin of Our Species, Close to Home, Space Adventure, Salvage trilogy, Multi-Dimension, New Territory and New Territory Revealed. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that one. Time Travel, Who Owns Tomorrow, and others. New Territory won a Best Sci-Fi Book for 2016 from the Texas Association of Authors, and together with its sequel, New Territory Revealed, won Best Sci-Fi Series in 2017. Salvage won Best hard sci-fi book for 2018, and Salvage 2, he's on a roll, won the same award in 2019. He now is calling that being retired, but he's still writing and lives with his wife and a couple of cats on rural property outside a small town in central Texas. Can't wait to hear about you.
Okay, let's see. I appreciate this opportunity, everyone. Let's see if I can share the screen here somewhere. There we go. One thing I'll let everybody know before I get started is this is a presentation I've given at two of the local libraries in the small towns around where I live for the past 5 or 6 years. And we have 20 to 35 people in that presentation every year. And it usually takes an hour and 15 minutes. So what I've had to do is pare it down considerably. You have what in most cases would be considered the full presentation. I hope Sam sent everybody a PDF copy of it. We will be skipping 3 sets of pages that are really well defined in terms of what you would need to do. So we're skipping over those, and you can look at them at your leisure. And if you have any questions on any of those pages we've skipped, or any of the stuff I present, you can ask them at the end of the presentation if we have time, or you're always welcome to send me an email. My email is actually in the presentation. It's on page 2. Let me see if I can get rid of this there. Okay.
Larry, we haven't sent out the presentation yet. I'm not aware that Sam did it, and I wasn't aware that there was one. So we'll send it out as soon as this is done.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sam has a PDF copy of the presentation, so hopefully you'll get it eventually. If you don't, and something happens, feel free to email me and I can shoot you one real quick. The only change I will mention real quick is that I hate to say this, but I've added another book. It used to be 12 books, now it's 13, and I'm working on number 14. And everything I've done has been through Amazon. I do paperback and hardcover and Kindle books. I always have to tell people this, that there are a lot of moving parts to self-publishing. And I'm only going to cover broadly the major categories. It takes a lot of time to get in depth on some of these. And this is just an overview of how I publish my books. As you'll see in a moment, there are a lot of possibilities, and you just have to pick what suits your particular process best. Some of the things we'll cover, and again, we will skip a lot of this stuff, particularly when we get into formatting. We'll skip a lot of that because it's really well defined on Amazon what they expect of their manuscripts when they get submitted. Some of the things may be USA only, where we register a copyright and we talk about tax considerations, but they're in the presentation, but we won't spend too much time on them. Keep in mind that Amazon is a publishing platform. They're not a publisher, as are all the other services that I'll mention quickly. When you self-publish, you become the publisher. When you get the presentation, you can take a look at a lot of the details. I have 2 pages here of alternatives. Some of these companies will assist you in publishing ebooks. Some will do only paperbacks. Some will do all 3, ebooks, paperbacks, and hardbacks. And some will have a lot of fine print that you really have to pay a lot of attention to. In particular, where your data resides. Some of these companies are what are traditionally called cloud-based, meaning that everything you do is not on your desktop. Some have an actual platform that runs on your PC. Some of them have software that helps you create the covers. Some only provide templates for both the book and the cover. So you have to be careful who you go with based on which pieces you want to concentrate on. Some will even insist on putting their name in your book, and you have to pay for a package to keep that out. One of the most important things is you have to make sure, whoever you go with, that you get a copy of your final files. And obviously, if you're doing it on Amazon, because that's usually what I've been doing for the past 10 or 11 years, that is paramount. You always get those, but some of the alternatives do not even give you the final files. So if you have to make changes to it and do a second edition, you almost have to start from scratch. So just be cautious about who you go with when you decide to self-publish. I always have to let people know how prolific the entire publishing arena is, and not to scare people away from putting their book out, but just to let them know in a lot of cases what they're dealing with. And these numbers are frightening in some cases, but you just have to make sure you set expectations that you can manage going forward. And especially the next to the last line, that has changed over the past 5 years. 5 or 6 years ago, it used to be a new ebook was on Amazon every 5 minutes. Now it's down to every 17 minutes. So it is getting a little bit better. This is
Larry, do you have any idea what's accounting for that? The fact that it went from 5 minutes to 17 minutes? Are they using other services, or is it just fewer people doing it?
Yeah, most people agree that what's causing the decline, it's really a decline in the number of ebooks that are sold, and that translates directly in a lot of cases to the number of ebooks that are published, because if people long-term find out they can't sell ebooks as well as they used to, they simply won't publish one. So that accounts for that change in a number. And the reason for that is, believe it or not, since the ebook revolution started back in the early to mid 90s with some of the off-the-wall categories, until Amazon got into the ball game, everybody thought the ebook revolution was going to kill paperbacks and completely take over. And in fact, it's now turned around the other way. Ebooks are becoming less and less popular as time goes on, and people are drifting more and more to being able to hold a real book in their hands. So that's an interesting statistic.
Thank you.
This timeline is probably, whoops, let's go back one, where you may want to give a lot of thought to how you lay out the process, and this covers, and keep in mind, when I give this presentation, I'm typically giving this to people who have had a manuscript sitting in their bottom desk drawer for 15 years and have no clue what to do with it. So this covers a lot of things that a lot of people who've been writing for years may already know, but this is just a quick process of where do I start? Where do I go first? What do I do first? What do I do second? And one thing to notice, and we'll talk specifically just a little bit more about this when we get there, is if you'll notice in this area, it talks about formatting a manuscript for paperback and hardcover, uploading the paperback, uploading the hardcover, and uploading the Kindle. Each format that you publish on Amazon is treated almost as a standalone entity. The Kindle paperback and the hardcover. You can choose which ones you want to do, which ones you don't want to do. The paperback and the hardcover share a manuscript. Their covers are different just because of the mechanics of making the cover, but they share a manuscript, and then a Kindle is formatted independently. The last two are in bold, market, and sell, because if everybody can figure out how to do that, you would be a millionaire. And I'm still working on that. Now, these are some of the pages I'm going to skip in the first set. I'm talking about how to establish the publishing account on Amazon. And it's very straightforward. When you get your own copy of the presentation, you can look at it in detail. And also the formatting, the basic rules of formatting, and then specifically what Amazon expects for the paperback and what they expect for the Kindle in terms of formatting. But most of this is documented very well on the Amazon website. These are just enough to give people an idea of where to go look. People are always wondering how to process the mechanics of writing a book on their own system, on their own PC. And I give them at least one alternative. This is the way I've done it for years. And it helps with the formatting considerably. I will start with a manuscript master file, and then as I develop each chapter, I copy that chapter over to the end of that manuscript file. And when you do that in Word, Word automatically reformats the data into the parameters you've set up on this manuscript master. Paragraph settings, pagination, headings, things of that nature, headers and footers, so that by the time you're done, typically the formatting is done and you don't have to go through a lot of data. This also allows you to isolate your work a chapter at a time for processing it through any software that you have for proofing and editing. A lot of times those software packages will only work with a limited number of or a limited amount of data. So this helps keep that to a minimum. These are tips that people, a lot of them have never heard of before. Everybody knows that one of the things you should never try is to do all the proofing and editing yourself. You need a lot of different eyes looking at it. And a lot of people who write a lot of books have suggested these two for people who are just starting out, that will help you get used to reading your own material and looking for errors. One of them is to read it out loud. That's a very good way to do it. And some people even suggest reading it backwards, because those two things force you to look at every word. And there are two different pieces of software that will help immensely. They just have their own, each one of them has their own minor quirks. Grammarly and Pro Writing Aid will find upwards of 95% of the spelling and grammar and things of that nature in your work. And then you still have to have several sets of eyes look at it, but this will give you a really good start.
Larry, one more question on that.
Sure.
You mentioned proofing versus editing. Could you just clarify the difference for people?
Sure. Proofing is more a mechanical process, and most of the software will handle that. It's spelling and punctuation, and in a lot of cases, most of the grammar. All of that falls into a category of proofing. And there's several different categories of proofing that you may run into when you talk to different people that you want to hire for doing proofing. Editing, on the other hand, is a lot more complicated usually, and encompasses particularly things like continuity, where you talk about the same concept in different places in the book, making sure those are all the same, making sure there's technical correctness in things that have to be technically correct, and really looking at character development and the flow of the story. And in a lot of cases, you'll need separate people to do editing and proofing. There are rare people out there who do both. So you may need to look at it from that perspective. You may need more than one person.
I think Finola, you do both. I just texted with her, chatted with her, and she's an editor proofreader. Finola, who's in Dublin, she does
Yes,
both.
like I said, there's not very many of those around, but they're gems when you find them.
Well, she's a gem in a lot of ways. Thank you.
Let's see, is that? Yeah, okay. This is and I'm not sure how the copyright process works outside the United States. You'll have to forgive me there, but this is the way people typically register copyrights in the US. I encourage everybody to go to the Library of Congress to do the copyright. It's a lot simpler than hiring a law firm to do it. And there's a couple of ways that are specified here that a lot of the writers who've been doing it all their life would suggest you do it. But that has to be done. And notice it says register the copyright, not because as soon as you put pen to paper, it is copyrighted. You just need to make sure you can prove when you put pen to paper, and that's why you register the copyright. The next set of pages that I'm going to skip quickly are mostly have to do with a lot of the details down into the real nitty-gritty details of it. Cover design is one of the things that authors seem to struggle with a lot. And it is true that covers sell books. You have to make sure you get a striking cover that will attract attention. And sometimes it's very difficult to do it yourself. And this talks about the software you may need to have if you do it yourself, and some pointers. Even shows you what kind of templates you would need work with. This is a template that you would download from Amazon to start the cover, and then you could do it would look like a finished product when you're done, like this one does. That's one of the first ones she talked about that I wrote. One of the things you have to be very careful about with cover design is if you do not do your own, you may wind up with issues being able to place small clip art, like I have the little Roadrunner in several places, and I have my publishing logo in the bottom left-hand corner of the book. A lot of processes that help you design covers won't let you do that. They force you to work with a rigid template where you can only put certain things in certain places. So in order to get any kind of cover you want to any level of detail, you will eventually have to start becoming adept at doing the covers yourself. And this will give the previous slides give you a lot of pointers and point you to the software that you can do that. Kindle covers are a lot simpler since you don't have a front and a back and a spine. If a Kindle, all you have is the front cover. We're also going to skip over ISBN processing. I will say one important thing about ISBNs is, and it's the bottom line of that slide, is a lot of the publishing platforms that you work with, Amazon, Ingram Spark, and a lot of the others, will provide you an ISBN because they purchase them very cheaply, so they can give you one. But keep in mind, if you do that, they own that ISBN. If you want the ability to move your book from one distributor to another, or from one publishing platform to another, you need to have ownership of that ISBN yourself. So you have to buy them. And this talks about where you can get those. Tax considerations, we will go through this very quickly. A lot of people that I work with locally, obviously in the US, are very concerned about federal and state taxes, particularly sales taxes. You wind up having to process your own sales tax in most cases. And then the last thing I'll cover in this little skip section is proofs. Amazon allows you to have several different levels of proofs before you actually publish your book. For example, if it's a paperback or a hardback, before you publish it, you can actually order a proof that you can hold in your hand so you can see exactly what the book is going to look like. And you can do that several times. You can order a proof and look at it and decide you want to make changes to your master files, upload the new files, and then order another proof. You can go through that cycle as many times as you need to until you get the book the way you're happy with it. Amazon also offers something called KDP Select, where if you are a part of that program, you can get more benefits, but you have to go into an agreement with them about distributing the ebook. So you have to be careful with that. And now to actually publish your book, this is a short list of everything you would need. And it's always good to have all of this stuff at your fingertips before you get into the process on Amazon of publishing, which we'll look at in just a second, but this is just a list of everything you would need. You may have to pay particular attention to search keywords. Amazon's going to ask you for search keywords, and obviously that's data that people input when they're looking for books. So when do you want yours to pop up? And then categories that your book falls into. And those categories are usually standard library sets of categories that books fall into. And then you can also specify grade level or age requirements based on the content of the book. The actual steps to publishing are really straightforward. And as I mentioned earlier, each format of the book is treated independently. You have to publish each one separately, the Kindle, the paperback, and the hardback. So pick one of the formats. There are 3 pages of data that you have to fill in. Most of this is classified as metadata, like the title, the author, the description, and that data, that metadata, will carry forward from one format to the next as you publish all 3 of them. Part of the data you enter is to actually upload the manuscript and the finished cover. And then you go through the proofing process and then simply press the publish button. And believe it or not, within 24 to 72 hours, if there are no problems, it will go live. And people can start buying it on Amazon. So it's not a very complicated process. And even though you have already published the book, one of the things that a lot of people are amazed at is you can make changes to the cover and or the manuscript if they are minor changes and don't constitute enough that would be classified as a second edition. You can make changes like that and re-upload and republish the same book several times. I've changed the entire cover of some of my books at least once.
That's an interesting point, Larry. When do you know that it's a second edition, and who makes that determination?
Well, that's an interesting question. And that goes back also to the copyright process. What we generally tell people is, and this is going to sound vague, but you know, when you're dealing with a lot of governmental agencies, everything is intentionally vague sometimes. But if you are going to publish what you would consider a second edition, that also means you have to have it copyrighted again. And if you go look at the Library of Congress's website and technical information on that, what they tell you is that if the book is substantially different than the first book, then it needs to be recopyrighted. Now, unfortunately, they don't define substantial differences. So it's usually taken to mean anything over and above light narrative changes or grammatical corrections or things of that nature. For example, if you add another chapter, obviously that's a second edition. If you substantially change the flow of the book, that would be a second edition. And that's also when you would have to actually publish it as a second edition on most of the platforms also. So it is intentionally vague, unfortunately, and I think they do that on purpose. But most of the places in publishing and in copywriting will use that substantial changes phrase, and they leave it up to you. Sales and marketing, I believe we were going to skip also. Again, these are just suggestions, different things that you can do. One of the things I tell everybody, and a lot of the published authors hate it when I tell this in a presentation or say this in a presentation, and I'm serious about it though, is never be afraid to give a book away. It will eventually find a home and create other sales. And you can watch, in some cases, after a book sale where you actually intentionally give away books, several weeks from there, you can actually see spikes in the sales in some cases. So it does actually happen, but a lot of authors hate to give a book away. I think that's one of the best things you can do.
You don't mention much about social media like LinkedIn or Facebook or any of that. Have you not had good success with that, or is that just not something you're interested in? Or
no, Facebook. That's the very first thing on social media appears.
Facebook and Twitter.
Facebook and Twitter. I'm not much of a Twitter aficionado. I think I'm too old for it. That's typically a young person's venue, I think.
Yeah, hey, watch it. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter all the time. I get a lot of good stuff out of it.
I'm probably the oldest person in this group, and I'm on Twitter.
Yeah.
But Facebook is extremely valuable, and that's where I do most of my marketing is on Facebook. And I have several thousand followers on Facebook, and Facebook also has a very good vehicle for doing targeted advertisements that you pay for. And it does work. It actually works.
Yeah, I didn't see that first line, so I was looking at some of the other stuff.
That's okay. Yep.
Great.
Amazon offers a free service for authors that self-publish on Amazon. It's called an author page. They give you a static URL to that page, and you can put it on a business card, or like I do is I wrap it up in a QR code, a quick response code, those little squares, and that goes on my business card. So as soon as somebody scans that with their phone, it takes them right to this site. And from here, obviously, they can leave a review, they can buy a book. So it's a very good advertising and marketing vehicle that Amazon provides for their authors. Royalties, we'll talk a little bit about this. Everybody's always interested in royalties, and I'll give you the quick overview. They have a very detailed explanation of it for Kindle and for paperback and hardback royalties at these two links. But you can see for Kindle, for paperback, and for hardcover, what the retail price would be for an average size book and what the royalty is you would wind up with when somebody bought that book. So you really get more money from, obviously, than you would from a traditional brick and mortar publishing house. One of the things I stress to people more than anything else is, and those last 3 slides I will let you look at when you get the presentation, because they're very wordy stories. I'll go through them quickly about famous people, and then I leave the name off and let the audience try and figure out who it is. But never let anybody tell you that your book is not good enough to be published. Do it yourself. Then that's what this presentation, and I think the new wave of writers is all about. This is the first of those 3 stories, the second one, and then the third one. And I think if you read them in detail, once you get a copy of the presentation, it'll be obvious. If you're any reader of books, you'll know who these guys are. And I always close with that quote, write what you know and write for yourself. Those are the simple things that we have to keep track of. And those are the high points.
Excellent, Larry. Thank you. We'll go ahead and stop sharing and we'll get back to see if anyone has any questions or comments, or we've had a few had to drop off probably because of business. Ailish is clapping. Thank you. Yeah, to me, Larry, it's the impossible part is not the publishing, it's the writing.
Oh, that's always the hard part. Yes.
Yeah, it's the I'm trying not to use the word discipline anymore. It's the devotion to writing and sitting down and doing that. But I just don't have any idea for it. I mean, I'm a talker, but I'm not, and I write fairly well, but I don't want to write a story. Roger, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I had two questions. The first, and I don't know that you know the answer to this, but friend of ours just recently published a book, but it was in Spanish. Do you know if they provide services for other languages other than English?
No, translation services you would have to find yourself.
Okay,
And,
but
I mean, you would publish it in a different language, and that would be considered a different format. And one of the things I didn't mention was that each format requires a separate ISBN, so that gets pretty pricey.
okay. And the second question I had was the print on demand. Is there a minimum quantity that they would look for, or is that a variable? No.
Amazon will print because they support, well, two things. First of all, when somebody buys a book on Amazon, it's actually printed when they buy it, hence the name print on demand. But if you're an author and you've published on Amazon, they allow you to buy what are termed author copies for your own inventory. That's so you can have books that you take to a book sale and sell yourself. And they sell you those, believe it or not, at print cost only. So a typical, say, 250-page 6x9 paperback will only cost you $3.20 to print, and they sell you those at that print cost, and then you sell them for whatever you want. And there's no minimum. You can buy one or 1,000.
Oh, great! Thank you.
Yep.
Michael has a hand up.
Yes. How do you market your books? How do people know that you have a book out there that's worthy of reading?
Well, there's several things you can do. I mean, obviously, if you are a lot into social media, that's one way to do it. In addition, a lot of localities, I know we have one here, and if you look deep enough, there's one in almost every locality. There's some kind of association of authors. And in a lot of cases, like the one we have here in Texas, they have a fairly well-guarded email list of thousands of email addresses of newspapers, publicists, and things like that. And if you draft a press release and send it to them, they will send it out on their network. And that's a lot of marketing gold right there. Local radio stations, local newspapers are also good. Sometimes they'll run free ads for new books or new releases. And your local library is a great place if you can get them involved. They will help promote the book for you. So there's a lot of different avenues you can get into.
Thank you.
Susan Delaney has a question. Our guest, yay.
Yes, I'd just like to know how long would you say it takes for one of your average books, because you've done 13 with this whole process. How if you had to try to figure out how long it would take?
You mean
okay, you've already written it, but from the publishing aspect, you know.
Okay.
So,
I usually allocate 3 to 5 weeks for editing and proofing, because I have 6 or 7 people that work with me and they're not all local. So I have to prepare the manuscript and send it out and get it back and make corrections and talk to them. So I will allocate 3 to 5 weeks for that process by itself. But then the actual publishing, once I get past that, it only takes, even with the series of proofing and looking at the proofs, and it only takes a week or two to do that, and it's done.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Speaking of that, I did have a question. When you were talking about the Word to the PDF, and then you said there was something about a manuscript template. I was curious, is that a Word formatted type of document, or is that your template you've created personally for Larry?
For the manuscript, it is a Word template.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that. I use Word.
Yeah, Microsoft Word, and Amazon maintains a whole library of those for different releases of Word. So yeah.
Okay, excellent. Good to know. Michael.
Yep.
Yes, you would be described as a prolific author. So how many books are out there in your head?
The one I'm working on now, number 14, is a spinoff of a 4-book series that I did that people fell in love with, and they fell in love with a lot of the characters in that book. So I took 2 of those characters and moved them to this new book, and that's the anchor book of a new series, and I have at least 5 of those planned out. And I always have a file of potential books. If I run out of anything that I'm currently thinking of, I go to that file and fish out the next one that's in the file, because I'm constantly reading scientific journals and those astronomy, those types of magazines, and I will find an article that speaks to something that could potentially happen. That's a book right there. So I'll flag that article and put it in my file, and eventually I'll get around to it.
So have you sold the film rights to any of your books?
No, not yet. I have not. No.
Are you working on it?
I've talked to a couple people about a couple of the books. So it is a possibility. Let's put it that way. Yes.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, yeah, I was going to say, you sound like you're trying to catch up to Stephen King. And, I just finished the Robert Jordan series, The Wheel of Time, the fantasy, the 14 fantasy novels. And yeah, that was completely addicted. I was ignoring most things. I was actually listening to them Audible, but they were great books. But this is kind of maybe kind of a silly question, but did you see the movie, The Man Who Invented Christmas, about Charles Dickens and how he wrote The Christmas Carol?
Oh, no, I did not. No.
Oh, it's excellent. Dan, I forget the guy I can't remember his name, who stars in it. It's excellent, but it shows how he goes a little bit crazy with the writing of it. And the characters actually appear in his room with him, and how he comes up with trying to come up with a bah humbug, and Scrooge what was his name? Scrum or Scrim, or, and all that. It's great fun as a non-writer to watch it and see that this is what they imagined Dickens' process was. It may have been his real process, that they were in the room with him and kind of haunting him until he wrote about them.
It may have been. My brother, who's been a newspaper man most of his life, keeps saying that you're never a real true writer until your characters start talking back to you. Yeah. And
I believe J.K. Rowling has kind of said the same thing about writing Harry Potter.
I think she has. Yes.
Yeah.
Mine haven't done that yet, but you never know.
Well, I'm not seeing any images behind you or anything, so you're not being haunted by them at this point. So, but that's really cool that you have a character and you're going to do spin-off, and I think that's wonderful. It's wonderful. Great pastime. So, not pastime, great second career for you. Excellent.
Sometimes I think it's taken on a life of its own. Yes, it was intended. It was intended just to give me a reason to get up in the morning after retirement, and I underestimated the popularity of what I was doing, I guess, because now it's kind of taken off. So that's a good thing.
Well, if it makes you happy. Sorry. Yes.
Hey, Susie. Yes. So that movie starred Dan Stevens from Downton Abbey.
I knew it was Dan. I knew who he was.
My cousin Christopher Plummer and the wonderful Jonathan Pryce, 1971.
The movie was from 71?
2017. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, it couldn't have been. Yeah, no, it's a great movie. It's nice to watch at Christmas, but it's great.
You can watch it on Hulu right now.
Yeah. All right, so we'll go, yeah, you might want to see it, but it might give you ideas, Larry, and you might start seeing things you don't want to see. So, all right, do we have any other questions or comments, or that was great fun. All right, and Ailish is jumping off the call, but she has now been published yet, or she's been in the finalists to be published again as she's a poet and published often, she's award-winning and published poet. So, but these are not these are just in magazines and poetry. Things that she's done. So she's written some pretty amazing poetry. So, all right, anyone else? Well, I think we're done just a few minutes early. Larry, thank you so much. And thank you for shortening it for us.
Thank you.
I had to laugh when you got to the taxation part, and I thought, well, that's optimistic if you think you're going to be selling. So you got to worry about your taxes, all $12 you might make. You have to pay tax on that. So not you, but I'm great in general. So, all right, anyone else?
Well,
All right,
don't forget when you get the presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to email me.
Yeah, Larry sounds like you're very approachable and willing to answer things for people.
Very generous to share all that.
Very
You're
generous.
very welcome.
Extremely. All right, and maybe
See you
you'll
next week.
like in your books.
That was
All
very
right,
interesting.
everybody.
Thanks very much.
Let's close with our motto: service above
Service above
self.
self.
All right, everybody. Take
Okay,
care.
bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
week.